Picture this. You're a servant in a Hungarian castle in 1609, and you witness something that will haunt you forever. Through a keyhole, you see your mistress, one of the most powerful women in Hungary, lowering herself into a bathtub filled not with water, but with the warm blood of a young peasant girl lying motionless on the floor. This is the documented case of Elizabeth Báthory, who became history's most prolific female serial killer. Over 2 decades, she systematically tortured and murdered between 650 and 700 young women, all believing their blood could preserve her fading beauty. Before we dive in, if you enjoy learning about history's hidden truths, hit that like button and subscribe. It's incredible we're exploring these stories together across time and space. Elizabeth wasn't born evil. Born in 1560 into Hungary's most powerful family, the Báthorys controlled vast estates and had produced kings and cardinals. Her family name alone granted unlimited power over thousands of peasants. But from childhood, she showed disturbing signs, enjoying servants' brutal punishments and finding entertainment in their suffering. At 15, she married Ferenc Nadasdy, a warrior constantly fighting Ottoman invaders. Left alone in their massive castle with absolute authority over hundreds of servants, Elizabeth began indulging her darkest impulses. What started as casual cruelty escalated into systematic torture, servants frozen to death in snow, burned with red-hot irons, or forced to eat their own flesh. Everything changed in 1604 when Ferenc died in battle. At 44, Elizabeth was a widow with complete control and no oversight. Once considered Hungary's most beautiful woman, she now noticed aging signs that terrified her. For someone whose power came from beauty, this was an existential threat. According to trial testimonies, Elizabeth became convinced that young women's blood could restore her youth. The twisted logic seemed reasonable to her damaged mind. If young blood meant youth and beauty, bathing in it might transfer those qualities. She systematically lured girls aged 10-25 to her castle, promising servant positions. Instead, they found themselves in an unimaginable nightmare. Elizabeth personally oversaw torture lasting days or weeks before draining their blood for grotesque beauty rituals. She converted castle rooms into torture chambers with hanging chains, red-hot braziers, and special tables with grooves for blood collection. Witnesses described horrifying scenes: girls hung by wrists and beaten with spiked clubs, burned with hot coals, needles driven under fingernails. Elizabeth positioned silver basins beneath victims to catch blood as they died. The collected blood wasn't wasted. Multiple witnesses saw Elizabeth bathing in tubs of warm blood, sometimes mixed with milk or wine. She'd soak for hours, believing it reversed aging. She also drank small amounts, convinced it would restore vitality from within. This wasn't random violence, it was systematic murder infrastructure. Her accomplices included Anna Darvulia, who suggested blood rituals, and Erzy Magyarova, who helped target minor nobility. Together they created a murder factory with specific roles for capturing, torturing, and disposing of victims. For years, rumors circulated about disappearances and screams from the castle. But peasant families had no recourse against Hungary's most powerful woman. Elizabeth's fatal era came when she began targeting noble daughters, families with political connections who could demand investigations. In 1610, when noblewoman Anna Báthory died at Elizabeth's castle, it triggered an official investigation. Investigators found shocking evidence: torture chambers covered in dried blood, decomposing bodies, and Elizabeth's detailed murder ledger documenting hundreds of deaths with blood collection notes. The sensational trial featured witness after witness describing her crimes in horrific detail. The evidence was overwhelming. Elizabeth was responsible for up to 700 deaths over nearly 20 years. Each was methodical, prolonged, designed to maximize suffering and blood collection for her deranged beauty rituals. Her noble birth saved her from execution. While accomplices were tortured and killed, Elizabeth was sentenced to life imprisonment, walled up alive in her castle rooms with only food slots, living in darkness until her 1614 death. The irony is perfect. The woman who killed hundreds pursuing eternal youth died alone and forgotten. Instead of preserving beauty, her crimes created eternal infamy. Most chilling is how society enabled her crimes for over a decade because victims were powerless peasants while she was untouchable nobility. Elizabeth Báthory's story raises uncomfortable questions about power and privilege that remain relevant today. Her obsession with youth and beauty, though taken to incomprehensible extremes, reflects modern anxieties about aging and the belief that beauty equals power. She died believing blood could restore youth, but ironically achieved immortality as history's most depraved cautionary tale about what happens when vanity, power, and cruelty combine. Her story warns us about absolute power's corrupting nature and the price society pays when allowing the powerful to prey on the powerless without consequence. That was the end of the story of Elizabeth Báthory, the Blood Countess, whose obsession with youth turned into history's darkest legend. If you found this story fascinating, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss more hidden history stories.